If a person was frozen from 2000 and woke up in 2020, what would shock them the most? Then tell me, future boy, who's president of the United States in 2020? Donald Trump, the businessman. Oh, that guy from Home Alone 2. That his retirement Beanie Babies aren't worth as much as he expected. Sears, Toys R Us, and a lot of other retailers that couldn't possibly fail are just gone. My inner child still cries when I remember that Toys R Us is dead. I still remember dragging my best friend in there after finding out she'd never been and watching her reaction. Pure joy on the face of a pretty jaded 16-year-old was glorious. Technology wise, internet speeds and storage size. We went from dial-up to hold on. This 50 GB game will be done in 10 minutes. I remember when the school was giving out USBs and I would be proud to get the 4 gig one. This was in like 07. I remember when a 128 MB SD card was a big deal. I wanted the 256 but it just really wasn't worth the extra 150. Smartphones. 2000 was barely flip phone level of phones, and that was still super rare. Most people that needed to be reached anytime 20 years ago old still had pagers. It's most shocking when watching TV. There are a number of shows: Psyche, Community, Parks and Recreation, The Office, 30 Rock, etc. that first premiered in 2007, 2009, and aired through 2014, 2016. Cell phones went from clamshell flip phones only usable for calls and texting to pocket computers, and you could see the progression episode to episode. Compare that to the 90s and early 2000s when cell phones were basically non-existent in TV plots. I do kind of like that some movies shows are intentionally setting themselves in the pre-2000s, pre-90s, so they can avoid cell phones in their stories. It gives more reason to make more period pieces set at different points in history. On a related note, I sometimes wonder how much the light speed pace of app popularity will make certain shows and movies age even more quickly. I can think of a few shows that use Vine as part of their plot. Vine was only active for 4 years, from 2013 to 2017. Not being to see their loved ones off at the gate at the airport anymore. Scrolled past a lot of smartphones and such to get here. Airports have changed so much. In 2000 I had a Palm IE and a Nokia. Imagining a future that combined the two wasn't that hard. In 2000, DSL and cable modems were around, although less ubiquitous. It was obvious that speed would increase, following some approximation of Moore's law, and thinking of how things changed from my Commodore VIC-20 early 80s to my Sierra Multiply 6X86, or from monochrome monitors to XGA. Monitors and computers are a little weaker than I had hoped back in 2000. We had Mems All Your Base, Dancing Baby, etc. There were CCTVs, so the level of surveillance isn't a surprise. AI is a surprise, in that it is so advanced, or that it isn't more advanced. That the British monarchy still has the same head. Someone could be frozen in 1960 and wake up in 2020, and they'd also probably be pretty shocked. That you didn't have to pay for music or steal it anymore. Free music somehow became legal. If it's free it still has ads. Basically the same thing as the radio, but you get to pick the songs. Assuming they have them. Still pretty cool though. The fact that they were frozen and survived. Clearly the person is just Captain America. How cheap and how big TVs have gotten. Back in 2000, I spent $300 on a 27RCA TV, which was a cheap brand at the time. Comparable 27 TVs from Sony were $700, $800. I remember seeing my first plasma TV in either 2000 or 2001. It was a 50, 720p, and it cost like $8,000. Now you can go to the store, get an entry-level 50, 4K smart TV for like $200. High-end TVs are $1,500, $2,500 for a 65. It's insane how cheap they've gotten, how big they are, but also how small they are. Front to back, they just keep getting slimmer, and the frame around the screen has all but disappeared. Instant gratification. The ability to buy anything online and have it delivered on your doorstep next day, or in some areas a few hours later. Shopping in general. The home shopping network was big back then. No flying cars or time machines. Probably the Orwellian level of surveillance and how most people seem cool with it. I don't even think Orwell could have predicted we would all carry tiny computers with cameras on the back and front watching and listening to us at all times. The decline of the internet from the golden era to what is now basically 5 social media companies. Also Adobe Flash is about to die, even though Newgrounds was a thing since 1995. Flash started taking off in 1999 and became commonplace in 2002. I doubt most people knew of Flash in 99, though. No World Trade Center. Donald Trump was president for a while. Robin Williams killed himself. NFL games are played in empty stadiums. And the guys who made the Matrix are both women now. Wait, what about the Matrix brothers? They're both trans females now. Obviously a global pandemic, but also technology like touchscreen phones. Also the popularity and earning potential of YouTube has changed dramatically. Fashion is also a big one. Would be rather different now. Also, YouTube, Facebook, Reddit, etc. Most large websites today didn't exist, and Google wasn't even that well known at that point. Internet speed, especially in Aus. 2000 was basically still 56k modems in Australia. Now most of us have access to up to 100 MB fiber, which still pales in comparison to America's cable internet 2000 MB. How cruel people have become. I mean really, waking the guy up in 2020. How porn is being mainstreamed. If they were old enough for job market, everything requires more experience, a degree or higher one, and might pay as much, combined with the rise in living expenses. Put me back under. Seriously. Growing up, I always figured I could get in at the ground floor like my dad did and prove myself to work my way up. Then 2008 happened, and I realized I could never survive on my own without getting a degree. That people can make money playing video games now. I hope Blockbuster has someone cool movies to check out. That Rick still isn't gonna give you up. I'm not convinced your average Joe from 2000 would get that reference. Sure, it peaked at 1 on Billboard, but that was 13 years prior to 2000. And it wasn't even in 1987 Feat's Top 100. It really became fully culturally relevant in 2006-ish. It would be like if you asked someone today about Turn Me On by Kevin Little. Sure, some people remember that song, but I bet most won't. Also, INB4 Turn Me On becomes a meme song in 2026. The world didn't end in 2012. And yes, we're all disappointed. It did end in 2012. This is a bad place. Little kids are getting congratulated to do inappropriate dances and stuff. Probably how fast paint dries now. Magic compared to 20 years ago. Computer programs can learn games through self-play and easily beat the best human in the world at said game. Donald Trump did what? They made a bunch of Marvel movies, and they were good. They made more Star Wars movies, and they don't have Jar Jar Binks in them. What I mean? I can have a phone that fits in my pocket and doesn't have buttons. You lost another space shuttle and retired the rest. What's a COVID? And why is everyone wearing masks and staying indoors? What I mean? The Twin Towers are gone. So, a lot of celebrities have died. I'm not crying. You're crying. Huh. Tom Brady turned out to be pretty good. The Browns still suck, though. Holy F. These video games look awesome. The Cubs finally won the World Series. Geo Cubs. Geo. What's a meme? What's a Facebook? What's a Twitter? And why is everyone spelling still so garbage? What's a GIF? And does it have anything to do with the peanut butter? Bill Cosby did what? Judd Fogel did what? The fact that Bill Cosby is a piece of shit in prison and Snoop Dogg hosts game shows with Martha Stewart would have blown my 18-year-old mind in 1999. 9/11 maybe, or its larger implications. People didn't feel safe in America right after the towers fell. Flying was a brave feat. Traveling to public places was horrifying. Imagine telling someone that terrorists had attacked us on our home soil and killed thousands. Also how restrictive certain things became. Like that SAT, passports, crossing borders, etc. The Thor. The what? The Thor. How much the cost of living is. The second they go to get a place that sticker shock. The potency of marijuana. As a woman who was 10 in 2000. The acceptance of larger than rail thin women in society. The lack of large belt buckles and low-rise jeans. What Aaron Carter looks like now. Also that nobody wears mud jeans anymore and Sears is non-existent. Just ask anyone who went to prison for 20 years back in 2000. Cultural attitudes towards the LGBT community. This is so true. Last year, staying at an Airbnb with my mom. Couldn't get the Wi-Fi to work. So we watched one of the 5 DVDs the guy had there. We chose Kissing Jessica Stein and the whole theme of the movie was basically can you believe she likes girls? We felt kinda icky after watching it. The film did not hold up. But glad society's become more accepting over the years. New York Twin Towers. The first attack on the towers happened in 1993. So, the fact that the towers could be a target wouldn't really come as a surprise. It's what happened afterwards that really would be shocking. The forced decision to go to war in Iraq. The insane amount of propaganda directed towards Americans. And the horrific abuse of sincere patriotism in America and other countries for the sake of, what? Boris F. Johnston as PM. I watched the old Top Gear when he was a guest, and it is laughable how much of a buffoon he is. Knowledge of malignant diagnosis and their subsequent questions. That someone decided to wake them up during this shit show rather than letting them sleep through it. A few things. The Simpsons ended. One Piece hasn't ended. Jeopardy has a new host. A movie about superheroes is the highest grossing movie of all time. Photorealism. A terabyte of information can now fit on the pad of your finger. No one has cable anymore. The non-existence of Blockbuster. Netflix no longer mails DVDs to you. The price of gas. How cheap massive TVs are now, this shocks even me. That Donald Trump was president. Tech. RAM speeds are capable of going over 10x faster than the fastest DDR. 4GB of RAM is considered low end. One CPU can have 64 cores while being at 3 GHz. Single core CPUs practically don't exist. Decent GPUs requires big heat sinks. Water cooling that's cheap and doesn't require assembly. SSD are not extremely expensive. 100 of megabytes can be transferred in 1 second. 1 TB of storage is affordable. Games are extremely nice looking. VR is actually practical. 4K and 8K resolutions exist, and you can game on them. And more. That Frosted Tips didn't stay popular. Okay, so my uncle went to jail in Mexico in 2001, and he got out this year. He said that the two things that shock him the most, smartphones and feminism. He was out of his mind that he cannot scream filthy things to women like before in the streets. LGBTQ. Technology. COVID. His friends that weren't frozen and are now older. Virtual reality. It was a gimmick, if that back then. No true VR existed on anything close to the level we have today. Nintendo's Virtual Boy is the only thing remotely VR like I can currently think of. It was very basic at best. Now we have VR video games at a semi-affordable price. We have the ability to strap on a headset and go anywhere in the world at the click of a button. Technology is insane when you really think about how far we've come in 20 years. Imagine showing someone from 20 years ago the sort of graphics we can achieve in a video game. Honestly, as an American, I believe the most shocking thing would be videos of the World Trade Centers being destroyed. I'm more of a fan of the question, if a person was frozen on December 31st, 1999, and woke up in 2020, what would shock them the most? Flat earthers and the declining trust in facts in general. Killer drones. Web user profiling. Mr. Beast's business model. Your phone has got a song identifier, but the healthcare collapses from a virus with a less than 2% fatality rate. It is easier to download all movies you've ever seen to a small hard drive than convincing a plumber to finally visit you and fix a broken pipe. That the US is in 2 wars. Still. And the reason for going to war was the 9/11 attack that brought down the Twin Towers. And that it barely registers in the media today. Our mission and how long we plan on occupying. If they're a comic book fan, the state of comic book movies and shows, and some of those movies winning Oscars, how big streaming is, the existence of a live-action Star Wars show with a huge budget, how much video game graphics have progressed, being able to play console-level games anywhere, Nintendo Switch, how far CGI and entertainment has progressed, the web now, compared to 2000, there's noticeably less of a Wild West feeling, which makes it easier to do certain things, but then makes everything feel so controlled and monetized, not to mention shrinking privacy, web-only content being a bigger thing that can give people a living. How big social media has become, having as much music, videos, games as you want, streaming, GPS, maps, email, camera, flashlight, weather reports, contactless payment, shopping, and so many other services inside a single pocket device. And I almost forgot to mention that you can call and text people with it too. And video chat. The lack of humanity. How much the internet has grown. That Windows is not the most popular operating system. Intel is not the monopolistic microprocessor manufacturer anymore. The Simpsons didn't end until the year they woke up.